Welcome back, guys. Let's now do the application of the information and knowledge that you gathered. Let's look at the questions now. The first question, we're having 3 diagrams where they show the reabsorption of salt and water through the tubules of the nephron. The nephron is found in the kidney under 3 different conditions. So we are looking at the width of the arrows that represent the amount of salt and the amount of water. The width here, we're talking about the thickness of the arrows. Here are the diagrams that I was referring to. We've got the first diagram here. Then we see the glomerula that filtrate with salt and water, the arrow that indicates salt and water getting into the renal tube, and we see water and salt. How do I know that it's water and salt? We've got the key here at the bottom. The white one represents water, the second one, the gray one the white represents salt, the gray represents water. Then we see the 2 arrows here. We see the water being reabsorbed, and we see salt being reabsorbed back into the system. We see the renal tubule here, and we see the 2 arrows again that represent water and salt. Down the water and salt be taken into the bladder with the urine. Then diagram number 2. Let's be vigilant now. The same diagram, but we're looking at the different thickness of the arrows. Now, if you look at water now here, water now and salt here. Salt is thicker here, and water is thin. So the diameter, the width of the arrows is not the same as in diagram number 2. Also, where we see water and salt go into the bladder, now the width of the arrows now is different from the arrows in diagram number 1. What about diagram number 3? Diagram number 3 still looks the same, but the difference is that the width of the arrow that represents water and the one that represents salt. And both in reabsorption and the one that is the ones that are taken into the urinary bladder. Then let's read the question. Question number 1 here says, name the hormone that is responsible for controlling water and salt. Guys, it's key to underline the key words, and it's key to understand what you are required to do in a question. So if we look at the question here, it's only 1 mark for each because we're just naming. This is the simple type of question. So we're just naming the hormones that are responsible for water content and salt content. Then, what are those hormones? ADH for water content and aldosterone for salt content. 1 mark for that. The next question here, we say, again it says name, but now we are naming the gland that secretes aldosterone. Let's see which hormone. Which gland? The adrenal gland is the one that secretes aldosterone. Because they said name what a gland. For how many marks? Only 1 mark. Easy questions. Then the next question will say which diagram between the 3 diagrams, remember the 3 diagrams that we interpreted at the beginning, will represent a person who has eaten salty chips. This is key, salty chips. On what? On a hot day without taking water. Then the answer there for this one will be diagram number 3. Diagram number 3 will be the answer. Why diagram number 3? Because when we look at diagram number 3 here, this person ate salty chips and did not take water, and it was hot. Then what is happening here? From the key of the salt and water, we see now more water is being reabsorbed into the system because this person is not taking water, and less salt is being reabsorbed. So if less salt is reabsorbed, then more salt will go into the urinary bladder to be taken out together with urine. So the next question says, explain. This is a key word. Why diagram number 2, the answer that you gave. So for the question that says explain, there must be a cause and effect for answering that question. So the answer here, we're looking at this diagram number 3 that we explained, that we know what is going on, and we're looking at the answer now. The answer says the blood will have high salt content because the person ate salty chips, and therefore no aldosterone will be secreted. A tick for that because we have cause and effect. Then this will result in less salt being reabsorbed. If you look at the arrow here, it's thinner than the arrow of the water. Then it says this will result in less salt being reabsorbed into the blood. Then another mark for that, or you may say more salt excreted in the urine. Then the blood will have less water than normal, a tick. That's how you answer the question that says explain. We did questions. You were able to answer the questions. We were able to interpret questions from the concept that we studied. Then let's look at the summary of everything that we did. You must make sure that you can describe hormones. You can recall glands and the hormones that are secreted. You can be able to describe the functions of the hormones. And you must be able to give examples of diseases that are related to the excess or deficiency of certain hormones. This, like this one, with this is goiter. The diagram indicates goiter. That is the condition caused by increased thyroxine. Then disorder caused by an imbalance in level of glucose. We are talking to diabetes mellitus. It's a disease that is associated with high glucose level. Then the summary again, we look at, you must be able to list 7 steps of negative feedback mechanisms that we dealt with. Recall 5 different negative feedback mechanisms that we did, and understand thermoregulation diagrams. Thank you guys for being with me throughout this lesson, and thank you for listening to me. I know you enjoyed the lesson, and thank you, thank you, thank you. Goodbye.